I kinda jumped the gun by watching Dawn of the Beast first, which featured Bigfoot and a Wendigo. I remember being pretty confused and wondering why we didn't learn anything about the lore behind the Wendigo. Then I found out the writer/director of these movies made The Retreat in between Monstrous and Dawn of the Beast, and it features a Wendigo. So does that mean we'll finally get some answers about the Native American spirit? Let's find out. The story pretty much follows two guys, Gus and Adam. Adam's getting married soon and wants to go on a hike to the Adirondack Mountains for his bachelor party. Sounds fun. Let's walk for days and days in the cold and snow. What a party. They spend their first night at this old guy's cabin. It's sort of an Airbnb, and they meet some other people who'll be hiking around too. They notice he has a lot of weird paintings all over the cabin, and he explains the legend of the Wendigo. How it can be a monster that hunts from the scent of blood, or a spirit that can possess a human being. But that it's all just a story. The paintings are something left behind from his ex-wife. One quick side note, I noticed in the guy's room, they have the same antler lamps I loved so much from the Snow Beast. Man, I really need to get me one of those. Anyway, in the early morning hours, they set out on their big hiking adventure, and after a little bit, they make it to the first summit. They celebrate, take some pictures, and do what you do, then start heading to the next summit. Later that night, they make it to an Adirondack and set up camp. Gus has some psychedelic tea that he got from one of the other hikers at the cabin, and they decide to let loose a little bit and have a little drink. Or, excuse me, maybe a big drink. They start tripping, and Adam talks about how he thinks he's becoming a book. Not like his life is interesting and he wants to write a book or anything, but that he is literally turning into a book. Okay, sounds good, buddy. Later on, Gus sees something in the woods. He grabs his knife and threatens it. One of the Wendigo creatures shows itself to Gus, and he takes off like a bat out of hell. But he's not quick enough, and the monster gets him. Luckily, he grabs his knife and stabs the monster, killing it. When he wakes up, he's in his sleeping bag, covered in blood, and Adam is missing. He looks around for him, and sure enough, he finds him, right there where he stabbed the Wendigo. Was it Gus who killed him? It sure looks like it. I guess that's what happens when you down half a bottle of peyote tea. Gus, now alone, wanders around all day and eventually is forced to set up camp for the night. He has a dream about a skull and antlers in the fire, which admittingly looks pretty cool. The next day, it seems like Gus's luck has changed and he finds a cabin. So at least he can get out of the snow and warm up a little bit. But there's not even a scrap of food left in the place. Several days go by in this cabin, and with no food, Gus is starting to lose it. He looks out the windows and sees Adam's body, and even though he doesn't want to, he knows what has to be done to stay alive. The next day, the door opens and Gus is saved. Man, talk about bad timing. Couldn't this guy come a few hours earlier, before he started eating his best friend? Well, it turns out that this is Martin, the owner of the cabin from the beginning. He explains to Gus that he used to go to this little cabin with his ex-wife, until one day she decided to go by herself. When she came back, she just wasn't the same. His only advice?
So resist it if you can.
I guess Gus got away with it as far as the police are involved, because he's home. And Amy, Adam's fiance, barges in, demanding to know answers. She knows he's hiding something, and I'm guessing it's the fact that he killed Adam. But as they're talking, Gus starts to see the Wendigo in some of his photos. Then, Amy says you never should have drank that tea, which is something he never told her about. Sounds like he's starting to lose it. But then he wakes up back in the Adirondack with no blood on his face.
Morning,
and
asshole.
Adam's there, perfectly fine. So you're telling me that was all just a dream? Well, that whole experience really left an impression on Gus, and he's still seeing the creature. And that's enough to make him pass out. When he wakes up, he sprained his ankle and hit his head. He can walk, but they're going to have to cut their trip short and start heading down the mountain. They stop after a little bit to take a break, and Gus is about to tell Adam about his dream when one of the guys from the B&B interrupts. This is Ryan, and he's the guy who gave Gus the spiked tea that caused all this mess. So, needless to say, Gus doesn't really like Ryan. He tells them about some cabin up here and that it has a bunch of drugs in it, that they could go and have a real bachelor party for Adam. And because this last drug trip went so well, they agree to try and find the cabin. Real smart guys. They keep on hiking, just hoping Ryan knows where he's going, and stumble upon a lake.
It's a lake!
They decide to set up camp here for Gus, then Adam and Ryan will go ahead and find the cabin, party a little bit, and come back with a snowmobile for Gus. They must not get too far, however, because Adam has to take a leak and Gus can still see him. And he can also see one of the creatures is going to attack him. Gus gets the thing's attention and it jumps on him, but then it just stops, seemingly being told so by the spirit of the Wendigo. Then it cuts to Gus in a therapy session. And this is where everything gets pretty confusing. Gus can see the monster in the room with him, and the therapist explains that he now has two realities. One where he killed and ate his best friend and got stronger from it, and another one where they both die. The therapist seems to egg him on, telling him to kill. So I think he's the voice of the Wendigo inside him, infecting him, trying to get him to be evil. Gus gets his knife and stabs himself in the chest, which defeats the evil inside. He wakes up and Adam is there trying to help him. He gets him to his feet and they make it to a road where they flag down a car and get away from all this mess. We see Ryan, who's still looking for this mysterious drug-filled cabin, and he spots the spirit in the woods, and then is attacked by the creature. He manages to get the upper hand and kill it, but there are more. Lots more. Finally, we see Gus, Amy, and Adam, all home, safe and sound. They're looking at a picture taken when they were at the top of the summit, and then Gus notices something he didn't see before. Something in the woods. Something with antlers.
And her mind started playing tricks on her, these cruel, cruel games.
He runs to the bathroom and pukes in the sink. When he looks up, we can see that he's starting to change. So, did the retreat answer all my questions I had after watching Dawn of the Beast? No, not at all. In fact, I have more questions now. I like to think that the whole part where Gus killed and ate Adam was just a very vivid dream, something that stuck with him, and maybe that was the spirit of the Wendigo that caused the dream, infecting his mind, making him go crazy. Or maybe that was the drugs. When he wakes up though, he can't be 100% sure it was a dream. Eventually the spirit is too strong and Gus has to make a decision to kill that part of him, physically, with a knife. But apparently that just prolonged the inevitable because in the end he started to turn anyway. That would make some sense. So that hooded figure with antlers, the classic Wendigo, isn't really there. But those monsters were once humans and infected with the spirit, and this is what they become. At least, that's what I think is going on. Maybe that was their intention, to make you think about it and come up with your own conclusion, which is kind of cool. But for me, I would like a clear explanation. As for the movie itself, it's okay. There are some things I could nitpick about. For example, the music in the first half of the movie is just one note droning on, and it gets pretty annoying. This has the same feel as Monstrous and Dawn of the Beast, so if you like those, then I think you'll like The Retreat as well. I give it 2.5 tainted teas out of 4.
I might actually have to pee.
Yeah, I think so too. Want to cross streams?
No, I think it might be more number 2. My stomach's kind of a nuts.
Even better.